Good evening, everyone. I'm Kriti Agarwal, the host for today's event. So, before starting with the event, I would like to give you a brief introduction about ACM Student Chapter. So, as you all know, it is a global community for advancements in science and technology. It organizes various activities and has around 200 student chapters across different nations, of which CCET ACM is one of them. So, over the years, CCAT ACM Student Chapter has been growing and involving more tech enthusiasts who share their experience and knowledge of their domain with other budding technocrats. Currently, we are working on research and development with a focus on web development, competitive programming, as well as designing. So, our overall goal is to envision building a community of like minded people who love to code, collaborate, and have fun in a tech savvy society. So, keeping the same in mind, we have also invited interested speakers to discuss and share their skills and their expertise with other individuals and technology associated people. So, today's speaker are Taruna Saini and Harshit Dubey for Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Chandigarh College of Engineering and Technology, CCET Chandigarh. So, now without taking much of the time, let's start the workshop on Node.js. Stage is all yours, Taruna and Harshit. All the
Thank you
best.
so Thank you so much, ma'am. And hello everyone, and good evening to one and all present here. So, my name is Harshit, and today I, along with Taruna Saini, will be discussing over the topic Node.js. I hope you all will like this discussion. So, let me share my screen. Just a second. Just a second. I guess there's some network issue. Let me reconnect with it. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, Harshit, you are completely audible.
Yeah, sorry for the inconvenience caused. There was some network issue. Extremely sorry for that. I guess my screen is visible now.
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay. So, let's begin with one of the most interesting topic, Node.js. So I know you guys must be wondering what exactly Node.js is. So don't worry, today I'm here to tell you about Node.js. So there are basically two forms. First is front end, and the next point is back end. So front end, what do we contain in front end? Front end basically contains like HTML, CSS, JavaScript. There is various framework like React and so on. And even the Flutter, which is used in Android development, is a part of front end. Now, moving on to backend, we have various backend concepts like languages are there in backend. For example, Node.js is one of the backend language. And you will be surprised to know that C, Java, Python, PHP, which we all have studied, is a part of backend. So, moving on, let's see what is exactly Node.js is. Introduction to Node.js. So Node.js is an open source server environment, and Node.js is free and it runs on various platforms like Windows, Linux, Unix, Mac OS, and all these terms. So basically, Node.js is a runtime JavaScript. So what do we mean by exactly this term, runtime JavaScript? We all have learned JavaScript. Some of how we know it, what exactly JavaScript is, how we can run it. So we generally right click on any of our web browser, goes to inspect, then console, and there we type certain JavaScript code. But with the help of Node.js, we can perform this JavaScript operation in our code editors like VS Code, Sublime Text, and etc. And I would like to mention one of the most important thing, which is Node.js is not a framework, it is languages. Many people get it confused that Node.js is a framework, but it is not so correct. It is a language. So moving on further, what is the use of Node.js? So there are various uses of Node.js like IO bound data streaming, real time chat applications. I would like to mention a fact out here. We all have used certain apps like Uber, PayPal, and the Netflix that it also contains Node.js. It is an application of Node.js. And Node.js is a non-bonding language. For example, we can see through here. For example, we have this Node.js and we have input output devices. On the right hand side, you can see disk, network, databases. So, for example, you need to fetch some data from the database. For example, you need to fetch some history like student name, marks, student details from the database. And Node.js takes almost about 10 seconds. For an example, it takes about 10 seconds to perform this operation. So, during that particular time, Node.js will not only perform that operation, means fetching the data. Side by side, you can perform certain other actions as well using Node.js. And this term is known as asynchronous part of Node.js. We'll definitely see this part, and this is what makes Node.js more interesting. Now, moving on further, most important part and the beginning of Node.js. What is REPL? So, REPL stands for read, eval, print, loop. Now, what all these terms means? Let's take it step by step. So, REPL takes Node.js, read it, the input code written in JavaScript. It takes and evaluates the data structures or the data which have been provided to us by through code. Then it prints the result and loop operations are performed. So let's not read and get confused in theoretical part. I would like to take you to the text editor. So I've already created a file with the name Node.js. Now let me open it with VS Code. I would be preferring using VS Code. You guys can use anything like Sublime Text or any other text code editor. So let me create a file index.js. I guess you guys have installed Node.js. It was mentioned there. If you have done it, then it's great. You all can participate along with me and practice whatever I'm doing. So, moving on further with REPL. So, basically, there are four basic concepts of REPL. Let me introduce with the three at present. So, REPL makes use of JavaScript's expressions, it makes use of variables, and also multi-line codes. So, let's take an example. So, we all have studied do while loop. Am I right?
Yes, right.
Yes, we have. So let's make a do while loop statement. Let me take this variable x which is equivalent to 2. So do. So the condition of do while states that first do comes, after that condition, the terms comes, and then the while statement. So let's take x plus plus. Let me increase the values and let us print it out. Console.log and what the value is, the value value is now dollar x and now y. So this is the code, and exactly, let me zoom in. In this code, I've committed some error. Can anyone here tell me what that error is? Okay, no problem. Let me first run it and then I will tell. So you guys see it is printing the value. The value is $x, $x, $x every time. We all have seen in Python and we have studied C, C++. There we make use of double quotes. But here we will not be using double quotes. We'll be using this sign. And now let's run and see what the output is. So now you can see. Initially, we gave the value x, and after making the use of do while statement and making the x plus plus increase in the value of x, we receives out the value of x3, 4, 5. So this is what the basic use of REPL is. So the three basic concepts: JS expression. This is a complete JavaScript expression. Use of variable. We have seen variable, declaring a variable, and multi-line codes are possible. Now, moving on to the last part, the last concept of REPL. That is, if we write node in our terminal, like I write node, and now the dot help node is activated, and now we can perform all our expressions here within our terminal itself. Like I can perform various expressions. Let us take 5 plus 5, 10, or 5 into 5, this. Now, for if we I want to use REPL, now what will I do? If I mark this underscore now, you will see that it is exactly copying up the same value which was received above. And this is for you can also perform certain expressions with it, like 5 20 underscore into 5. This will give me 125. So this is what the exact use of REPL is. So now REPL is over, and let's see the next part. So now Node.js modules. Modules are one of the most important and one of the most interesting part of Node.js because these modules make our work easier. So modules basically contains a single file, or it can be a collection of multiple files and folders which programmers have already developed, and these modules can be reusable, and these modules have ability to break down the complex code which has been written into small pieces or the manageable chunks. So let's have a small reading of this definition. So in Node.js, modules are the block of encapsulated code that communicates with an external application on the basis of their related function. I know you guys might not have understood you through the definition. So let me again take you to my code editor and let's perform some experiments and certain expressions. So now, one more thing, if you want to inquire some module, you need to write the keyword require. For example, let's require some operating system. Let us know about my operating system. Means what laptop am I using? What is the bit? What is the RAM size storage present in my laptop? So let's see that. Now, const OS. OS stands for operating system is equals to require OS. So now Now, if I write console.log, console.log, now os.arc. os.arc is used for letting us know our bit version. ARCH, arc. Let's run this code. So you will get to see that it is x64. My laptop is a 64-bit laptop. Now, let's see how much storage is present in my PC. So for the storage, we'll be declaring a free memory. So like const free memory, which is equivalent to os dot free mem term is used for obtaining the free memory present in our PC. Free mem. And let's print this in our console. So this is giving us some arbitrary value. It might not be looking good like 36481 and so on. This is some value which has been given to us. Now this value is in bytes, and generally we do not like those values in our bytes. We prefer in GB or MB. So let's convert this term into GB. So again, console.log, and then dollar memory, memory, and after that we'll have to divide it by 1024 three times. Let's run this. So you guys can see I've obtained some value which is 3.4623 and such type of value is there. Now, what this value is? This value, if we round off, we'll be obtaining somewhat about the value 4. So this value is about 4. Round off. So this storage, which I was telling about the storage, is not exactly the storage of my hard disk or some SSD. It basically tells about the storage of our RAM. So this laptop of mine contains 8 GB of RAM, and out of which it says that 3 GB or around about 4 GB of RAM is unused. It is free. So let's see about the total RAM also. Let me again create const, which is total memory, and this is equals to os dot total. Now total memory is used for obtaining the total memory, and similarly again console.log dollar and then total memory, again dividing by 1024 1024 1024 and done. Let's run this now. So you guys can see I've obtained some value which is 7.9141. This is approximately 8. So this proves that it is my PC contains 8 GB of RAM, out of which approximate 4 GB is in use and 4 GB is the free memory. Now, if you want, let me take you on to one more part, just one more, and we'll get to know from where we are obtaining all these terms like free men and total mem, all these terms. I will tell you. Even I haven't learned, and neither I will be suggesting you all guys to learn it. Okay, so let's take one more example, then we'll see it. Now, console.log. If I want to see the host name, who is the host of this PC? OS dot host name. Let's run this, and as you can see, Harshit Dubey. That's my name, and I'm the host of this PC's name. So now let's see from where did I got to know all these terms. So this is the place. It is an official Node.js website from where you guys must have downloaded the Node.js software, and this is the place from where you can get to know all those systems. Like I was making the use of operating system module, so you can see os.arch we have seen, os.freeman we have seen, hostname, all these terms we have seen. So you can directly make use of this part and see what all terms are there. I would prefer giving the link of this website. Let me copy paste it chat box. Now we are done with modules. So moving on further, let's have a look upon the next topic. Now, there's a statement written. That's a very strong statement. Node.js is asynchronous. Now, what do we exactly mean by synchronous and asynchronous? If I talk in a layman language, for example, you guys have been with your group of friends to some restaurant and you want to order the food. You are very hungry. Waiter comes and there's another group of people sitting next to you. Waiter comes, takes the order of that particular group and moves on. Now, till the time the order of that particular group is not completed, it is not served, till that time the waiter won't take your order. So I guess no one will be preferring to go in such type of restaurant. And similar is the case with synchronous. You can directly relate synchronous with the example. So we all would prefer If we go there, the waiter takes the order of the other group of people, and side by side, the waiter takes our order too. So this is what asynchronous part is. In case of asynchronous, if we have performed a particular expression, for example, we have given 5 to 6 expressions to our Node.js. So Node.js will not run time by time, like finishing of the first expression, then second, then third. No, it will consume a lot of time. Whereas Node.js would prefer the expression which takes less time, it will execute that expression first and then moving on further. So this was the complete expression and the difference between synchronous and asynchronous. So let's read this last paragraph, which is important. Asynchronous does exactly opposite. And asynchronous code execute without having any dependency and no order. This involves the system efficiency and it makes our system more efficient as well as fast. So let me take you to this editor again, and let's see for synchronous. Although we know that Node.js is an asynchronous, but enjoyment is seeing the synchronous, the thing which is not useful, and then moving on to the useful part. So in order to make use of synchronous, I will be requiring a file fs, which stands for file system. Now const fs is equals to our require fs. So let's create a file and in a synchronous manner. So fs dot write file synchronous, and let's name it as read.txt, and let's include some word like today is Sunday. Let's introduce this and run it. So it has been successfully executed, and you can see a read.txt file has been created, which says that today is Sunday. Now, if we want to update this written record, which is already written into this file, we'll again be performing the same expression. So fs dot write file synchronous, everything same, and read dot txt, and then we'll update this. Like let's write I am a student of CSE, and then we'll execute this. So done. Now you guys can see that this has been updated. I am a student of CSE. So I'm a student of CSC have been executed and it have been successfully placed into this read.txt file. Now the file creation is done. So what if I want to add some extra text into it? So we can make use of append file synchronous. fs dot append file synchronous. Now making read.txt again, and let's write this some text. I study in CCET, and let's execute this. So now you can see that this part have been added. I study in CCET have been added into it. A space, I need to give some space, it will be more clear. Here we can provide a space, and then we can execute this. So I'm a student of CSE, I studied in CCET, have been placed here. Now, if we want to read the exact data which is present within our file, for example, if I want to read this, the complete, we cannot directly read it. We need to perform certain expression using synchronous. So let's write it. And this makes what is the exact difference in between synchronous and asynchronous. We'll see both form of expression. So first have a look upon synchronous. Now const, and let me write print underscore data, which is equivalent to fs dot read file synchronous and read.txt. This is what our file name is. And then let's print this print data into our console. So console.log print data, and let's execute this. So you guys can see some random values 49, 20, 61, and all these terms have been obtained. These are basically the byte values of it. So how do we do not understand. The computer might be able to understand these values, but it is not so the scenario form with our case. We do not understand such values. We understand a particular string. So let's convert this print data function into a string. So let me write like org data and some random name, and then print data to string. To string is a method here, to string, and using this we'll be converting the above given term into string, and then console.log org data. Let's execute this. So now you can see I'm a student of CSE. I studied in CCET. Have been executed. So this have been executed out here. Now let's see. We are done with synchronous portion. So let's have a look upon asynchronous. What exactly the asynchronous means. So let me erase all this and delete this file too. Read.txt. We'll be creating a new file. Delete. So now for asynchronous pass, the thing is same. Module used is same. File system. Const fs is equals to require fs. So now let's again perform the same expression but using asynchronous part. So fs dot. Now in synchronous, we were making a use of write file synchronous. Here we'll be making use write file. This is in an asynchronous. Let's again create read.txt file and put some word. Okay, let's again put it. I am a student of CSE. Similar thing. But now, in order to execute this or in order to create a file, we need to perform certain expressions. Like we'll be making a use of callback function with using fat arrow function. This is the one of the most famous and the one of the most popular way of creating. So let's see. Now, in order to just to avoid some error into our text, we'll be introducing this ERR. ERR stands for error, and then we'll move on. So let's print this console dot log. I'm just writing this random. So let's write like congratulations. It is printed. So it is printed, and let's write console.log and err. So now let's see what the exact output is. So this is that given congratulations, it is printed and null. So what does exactly this null means? Null means the error which we introduced, the term err which we introduced, error, it prints null. That means no error in our system. So let's see read.txt, the same file I've been created. I'm a student of CSC. Now this we have created a file read.txt. Now let us perform the same expression. Appending will append. So fs dot append. Now earlier we made use of append file synchronous. Here we're making use of append file. Now almost everything is same the way we performed the above expression. Read.txt. And after that, in CAC. So same terms, and then just a second. I need to put this comma out here, and then we'll be making use. So again, introducing this term ERR in order to just to avoid error. So console dot log, and let's print updated, and then run this. So you can see updated have been printed out here, and let's see what changes have been made into our file. So again, same thing. I study in CSC have been printed. But all these things have been done through asynchronous form because Node.js makes use of asynchronous. Now, last thing, let's just read the data. Now, remember last time when in Synchronous, when we read the data, it was giving us some arbitrary values. We need to convert that data into string. But here, in case of asynchronous, we'll be directly performing that expression. So let's see. Const, let's write it. Read data, read underscore data, and this have been equals to fs dot now read file. Read file. So this is what the read file expression is. Earlier we were making use of read file synchronous. Now we'll be using read file. So let's write read.txt, the same thing. And here we'll be introducing this UTF minus 8. Now what this term exactly UTF minus 8 is? It is known as file encoding, and here we will be making use of it in order to convert the data which was present inside our text inside our read.txt into string and then printing out the values directly. So now again the same thing ERR, and here we have introduced the term data. Data was in term. Now again the same fat arrow function, and let's print out something into our console.log data. Then let's read this. So you can see the data which I created this have been printed out here. I'm a student of CSC. I studied in CS. I'm a student of CSC and I study in CSC. Same things which I printed. So with this, we have completed certain parts like synchronous, asynchronous modules have been done, and REPL, basic of Node.js is complete. Now I would like Taruna to take this me forward.
Okay, so thank you, Harshit. Next, we will move on to the creation of a web server using Node.js. So before pulling this off, first we have to understand what exactly is a web server. A web server stores and delivers our website content. We need a web server to gain access to any web page. It uses the HTTP to respond to the requests made by the users on the World Wide Web. HTTP here stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol. The main job of the web server is to display the content of the website, which it does by storing and then processing and then eventually delivering the web pages to the user who has requested it. So the examples of web servers include IIS, which is a web server for ASP.NET Web applications, Apache, which is a web server for PHP or Java web applications. Creating web servers using Node.js. Node.js provides the capabilities to create your own web server, which will handle HTTP requests asynchronously. You can use IIS or Apache to run Node.js web applications, but it is recommended to use Node.js web server. So now let's open a text editor and try making a web server using Node.js. Here I am working in Visual Studio Code and I've already installed Node.js and I hope you have installed it too. In case you have missed installing it, you can go to nodejs.org and download the application from there. After downloading Node.js from nodejs.org, you can check whether or not the Node.js application has been installed on your systems properly. Open up your command prompt and type node --version. If the version number of your application is displayed, then that means that Node.js has been installed properly and is now ready to be used. Here the version of my Node.js application is 14.17.6. So now let's get back to our Visual Studio Code and try creating a web server. Now as you can see, I have created a folder named server and I will now create a file named index.js inside it. So this is my index.js file and our first task is to use a HTTP module. Our first task is to create a HTTP server using the HTTP modules. HTTP modules are our core modules which help in using the server and the client. These modules can create a server and listen to the server ports and give a response back to the client. So the first task is to create a web server or HTTP server, and for that we require the HTTP module. So I'll begin this with const http is equal to require http. Here we have to put the name of a module within double quotation marks and we have to put a semicolon after the line ends. So our next task is to create a web server. The method http.createServer helps in creating a server. This method includes the request and response parameters which are supplied by Node.js. So our second task is to create a server object. So we'll make use of http.createServer method. This method includes the request and response parameters. So const server is equal to http.createServer. So inside this method, we will pass a callback function inside the http.createServer method. Here we will pass a callback function with the parameters request and response. So this is the basic syntax of a callback function, the one which I have highlighted here. So a callback function is a function which is passed into another function as an argument. and which is then invoked inside the outer function to complete some kind of routine or some kind of action. So here I'll write a callback function. Callback function is a function which is passed into another function as an argument. So here I would like to request everyone to type the comments as you code along. This will help you to understand the code when you will be reviewing this in future. So here inside the callback function, we are passing the arguments request and response. So the request object can be used to get information about the current HTTP request. Example, the URL, the request header or data, etc. So I'll write it here. Request to get information about the current HTTP request. So now we will write a response within the curly braces here. We will use the response.end method. The res.end method is used to write the responses. Here we'll write our response, hello world. So this is a basic syntax. We have used a method http.createServer. Inside this we have passed a callback function. I'll write the basic syntax of a callback function. This is the basic syntax of a callback function. Here we can pass the arguments and this is an arrow, and here inside we will pass the message. Here our message is the response, which is the hello world. So here we are sending a response hello world to our user. Now here we have created a response before making any request. So whatever request the user makes, first we have to listen to that request. We have to write something which will enable us to listen to the request the user has made so that we can generate some appropriate response. So to listen to the request, we will use a listen method. Listening the request. So our third task is listening to the request of the user so that we can generate an appropriate response. So the server.listen method is used to listen on a specified port or a specified path. So here we are making use of server.listen method. So a server.listen method creates a listener on a specified port or a specified path. Server.listen creates a listener on a specified port or path. So next we will have to add where we want to listen to a request. That is, we have to give a port number. Or better, we have to give an unused port number. Here I am using port number 8000. But you can choose any unused port you want. So here we are specifying our port number as port number 8000. So next we will have to give the name of the host, which is nothing but our local host. Here we are adding 127.0.0.1 which is the IP address or simply a local host. It is used to access the network services that are running on the host. So here 127.0.0.1 is our IP address or simply a local host. So after putting a comma, we will pass a callback function again inside the server.listen method. So the server.listen method has the port number, the local host, and a callback function which will pass the message. We will pass the message via console. So inside this curly braces, I will press enter and type console.log, listening to port number 8000. So if the request of the user has been listened successfully, the console will pass a message listening to port 8000 and the response generated will be hello world. The response will be generated at the port number 8000 and uh, after making the request, the console will pass a message in the console itself. So if we want a message that the incoming request has been listened to successfully, then we can use a callback function and print a message on the console. So let's save this using Ctrl plus S. And now we'll open our terminal. In Windows, the shortcut key for opening the terminal is Ctrl plus backtick. And now to run a Node.js program, you have to type node and then the name of your file. Here the name of my file is index.js. So I'm typing node index.js and then pressing enter. So here, as you can see, I'm getting the message listening on port 8000 on my terminal. It means you have created a server successfully on your system and it is requesting your responses at port, it is requesting your requests at port number 8000 and it is generating a response there. So now our server is ready to use. Now let's get back to our local host. So type in the URL localhost 8000 and you can see a response has been generated, hello world. So the request has been generated here and our console is telling that it is listening on port number 8000 and on port number 8000 our response is being generated. So this response has been generated after the user has made a request. So our server is created successfully. And next we'll see handling HTTP requests and routing using Node.js. Okay, so handling HTTP requests and routing using Node.js. So in a normal website, you can see various pages such as the home page, the about us page, the contact page, etc. It goes like this. If we write here /contact in the URL, then the contact page opens up. If we write here /about in the URL, then the about us page opens up. Now these requests are made in the URL and these are called the HTTP requests. If we want to deal with the URL, then we have the URL modules. These /contact/about are the specific routes for the different pages. This is a specific route or this is a different route and this is a different route. So let's get back to our code and create routes for our pages. So first we'll comment out the response.end piece and then we'll specify the route of our home page. So our next task is routing. So first we'll specify the root of our home page if the URL of our request is equal to /. Then the response generated will be hello from the home page. So basically this tells about the home page root. This / tells about is signifying the home page root. Home page root is this root that we have opened earlier. This localhost 8000 is a home page root here. So / tells about the home page root. So if the URL of our request is /, which means it is the same localhost page that we have seen, and then we will write this response, hello from the home page. Now if we want to open up the contact page, or if we want to use the contact page, then we will add another else if the URL of our request is equal to / contact. Then the response generated will be hello from the contact page. Now here /contact tells about the contact page root. So here you might have understood that whatever comes after the / symbol will open up as a new root. Similarly, we can add any number of pages we want, and here I will add an about page too. So else if the URL of a request is equal to / about, then the response generated will be hello from the about page. So here / about tells about the about page root. So let's save this and first rerun this on the terminal. We will type Ctrl+C to exit the previous running commands. Press the upward arrow key to get the previously run command. Here, after pressing the upward arrow key, we are getting node index.js, which was the command which we had run previously. Now let's press enter, and you can see that our server has started and it is listening to port 8000. Now let's get to localhost and refresh the page. You can see the default page has opened up and it is saying hello from the about page. The response generated is hello from the hello from the home page. And now let's go to our contact page. And you can see the response hello from the contact page. For the about page, you can see hello from the about page. So we have a separate contact page, we have separate about page and separate home page. That means the responses generated are different for different pages. So all this was routing. So what exactly is routing? Routing defines the way in which the client requests are handled by the application endpoints. Here our client has requested a contact page, an about us page and a home page. So we were handling the request by routing in the URL. So let's go to console and network. And now refresh the page. You can see an about page with a status of 200. Status 200 means that the response has been successful. Now let's load the contact page. You can see again that the contact page is displayed here. The name of the page is contact and the status is shown 200. Status 200 means that the response has been successful, and same occurs with the home page too. Now if instead of contact or about, if I write something like main which was not specified, then we see that this page is stuck on the loading part. See, you can see from here that the page is stuck at the loading part, and that means that it is searching for a page named main in the web server. So here in our console, our main page is shown, but the status of the main page is shown as pending. It has a pending status, and we do not want a pending request. Instead, if the user types in a URL which does not exist, then we want that it shows an error. Status code 200 is shown when the page has loaded successfully, but this page does not exist. This main page does not exist, and an error code of 404 must be shown to signify that this page does not exist. So first of all, let us study status codes. So HTTP response status codes allow us to specify whether a HTTP request has been successfully completed or not. There are 5 main classes of responses. So first is the informational response, which starts with 1. And all these are 3-digit status codes. So informational responses starts with 1, and this means that the request has been received and the process is still continuing. Now successful responses start with 200. For example, our status code 200, which signified that the action was successfully received, understood and accepted. The page was loaded. Our contact page and the about us page was loaded successfully. So it was shown status code 200. Now the third category is the redirects. Redirects start with 3. This signify the further action must be taken in order to complete the request. Client errors start with 4, and for example, you have already heard about the 404, which signify that the request contains incorrect syntax or cannot be fulfilled. Here when we were asking about the main page, it was showing us a pending status code, but we want an error to be shown. We want a status code of 404 to signify that the client has made a mistake on his part and has inputted a incorrect URL. And the last part is the server error, which starts with 5. So here it signifies that the server failed to fulfill an apparently valid request. So these are all about the status codes, and here we are talking about status code 200 and status code 404. So 200 shows okay and 404 shows not okay. But here instead of pending, we want a status code of 404. So let's get back to our code. So our task is to specify the code for the wrong request made by the user. So we'll write here an else part. response.writehead, and inside it we'll write the status code of 404. So the response dot we have made use of a response.writehead method, which sends a response header to the request. Response.writehead sends a response header to the request. And here we are writing a response.end, page does not exist. So we have used a method response.writehead. Inside it we have written our status code 404, and here 404 means that page not found. Status code 404 signifies that the page is not found, and we have also written a message here that the page does not exist. So let's save this and rerun our code. Press Ctrl plus C to exit. Press the upward key, and then press enter. Listening to port 8000. Now let's get back to our localhost, and you can see that when a request of a main page is made in the URL, then a status code of 404 is shown, which means that this page does not exist. We can write any other page. For example, I may write page ABC. Then also the status code of 404 is shown. The status code has changed from pending to 404. This signifies that there is an error on the user part and the user has to input a valid URL. So if I input a valid URL, for example /about, then a status code of 200 is shown. But if I input an invalid URL, for example incorrect, a status code of 404 is shown, which means that the page is not found. So now the content type which is shown here is document. But whenever we deal with web pages, we do not write a normal .txt code. We write an HTML code instead. So here, instead of document type, we will get an HTML code. So here in the else part, I will specify the content type of my page. After 404, put a comma and put curly braces. Double quotation marks, content type, come out of the quotation marks and then specify it, which is text/HTML. And since we are specifying our content type to be HTML, let's output our response as an HTML code. As an HTML code here. I'm enclosing it within the h1 tags, and you can enclose it within the paragraph tags or any other heading tag or anything. So let's save this and rerun it again. Ctrl plus C in the terminal, upward arrow and enter. It is listening to port number 8000. Now let's refresh this page, and you can see that our message is written as an HTML document. This is a normal heading. If I zoom out and make it 100%, you can see that this is a H1 that this is enclosed within h1 tag, and instead of the output, instead of the response that we were getting as a text document, we are getting it now as an HTML document. You can see it in the console network. First, I'll refresh it, and the content type shown here is text/HTML. So similarly, you can add the pages or change the status of these pages according to their errors. So this was all about routing and handling HTTP requests. I hope you have learned something out of today's session and are familiar with the creation of a web server and some of the basic commands and modules which we have introduced in Node.js. So I, along with Harshit, would like to thank the ACM team and Sudhakar sir for giving us this opportunity to host such an informative event. And I would like to thank all the participants for participating and coding along with us. So thank you everyone.